All right. Well, I was washing my wife's 650i the other day, and you know how that no good deed goes unpunished deal. Well, I hung the towel on this little third brake light right here, and I popped the corner up. And so now it's loose, and I think I might have damaged something. So I got to get this thing off here and get it fixed pretty quick here before she finds out. So I think maybe I can take it off there and have a look-see. But anyway, at a minimum, I can learn how to take it off just in case it is truly broken. I'll be able to buy a new one, but I think they're about 200 bucks. So we're going to give it a go and see if I just broke a little piece of plastic or something in there. So we're going to show how to take this thing off here real quick and see if we can get it fixed and back on there before anybody finds out. So to get this third brake light off here, we're going to do it from the inside of the trunk. And it's basically held on with some bolts that go across on the inside. But to get to them, we've got to take the fuzzy cover off of the liner up here. So we need one of those little puller tools, and we can pop all these clips off here and then see if we can get access. So not too hard to do. Just got to grab them and pop them off there. Get up underneath them. And we'll just start popping them things off. Pull kind of hard and see they pop loose. They separate and then they'll pop right off there. Some of them are tougher than others, so it helps to have something to put behind it so we can get something in there behind it and then pry up a little bit on them. See if we can't wiggle them out of there. Alright, so with all the little clips out, all we got to do is get this little pull handle off here, but it comes off just by pushing inward on the little tab, and then you can take the cable loose. So all you do is push on that little tab right there, and then it'll pop that loose. We're going to have to fish that back out of there once we put the fuzzy cover back on. So that's got that. Now we just need to pull down and make sure we don't have any of the other clips holding it. And then we just slide that out. Alright, so we are looking up under the trunk lid, as you can see. And the only thing that holds that third brake light on is these series of bolts with the nuts and the springs on them. Right here, and then there's an electrical connector right in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and take the nuts loose because this connector is real hard to get to. And see if maybe when I pull it out I can get to that connector a little bit better. So all we need is an 8mm and a swivel, and we're going to reach up in there and we're going to take those nuts off there that have the springs on them. We'll just keep the nuts and the springs, and there's a little washer as well, so you got to keep up with the washer and the nut and the spring. So we're just going to set those down in here, and we'll just go across here taking these off. Alright, so with all the little nuts and springs and washers off here, all we want to do is get a hold of one of the bolts and push up on it on one side and see if we can get our fingers on the top underneath the third brake light and walk him out of there. So there he is out, and I can get to that electrical connector a little better. So now with it out, what I want to do is close the trunk back down, and then I'm going to disconnect that electrical connector. So now with the trunk back down and we got him freed up, what I can do is pull him out. And then I can access that electrical connector a little bit easier from out here. So now I can grab a hold of it and disconnect the light assembly by just wiggling that connector. There we go. So now we just got to keep up with that little guy, and there's our electrical connector. So what happened to our third brake light? Well, it was loose over on this side, so you can see all of these little plastic guys broke right here. And it looks like somebody's been in here before because it's got some, looks like glue on it or something. So we got to figure out, is this salvageable? Will I be able to glue that back? I can see where it goes, but now I just got to figure out how to glue it back together because it's all broken up. So let's take that out to the bench out there and see if we can figure out how to get something to glue that back together. Alright, so over at the workbench here, it looks like our patient is in pretty bad shape because it's all cracked up. All of these are cracked up, and I don't know, because this part is the thickness of the slot that goes in the trunk, so we can't put anything on the outside, so we're going to have to stay inside of these to be able to reattach this, because I disconnected the little wire here and there's really nothing left holding this mount on there. So you can see all the little tabs are broken off, so it's in bad shape. So I'm definitely going to need to be reordering one if I can't figure out how to get this in here. But we can take it apart and see if maybe there's a possibility that I can sneak a couple wires in there or something inside of these and button that thing back up, because there's a bunch of little tabs right here. So let's flip it over and see if we can't get the LEDs out of there, and then see if maybe we can get some wires in it. But I'll have to find one that's new, because as old as the car is now, probably the one I pull off is going to be in just as bad shape. So there is the LED assembly, and so it comes right out of the plastic. Alright, so if I'm careful, I may be able to pull the LED strip out, and that'll give me an idea what's below it. So it's got little tabs that hold it on there, so I'm just going to, as carefully as I can, try to pull that strip out of there. Alright, so after taking my fingers and wiggling them, there's the LEDs, so they all look good. So maybe there's a possibility that I can get some wires in between here, and then I'll be able to clip this guy back on there. Alright, so it looks like I'm going to have to buy a new one, so now I just got to try to get it put back on the car. So right inside of these, there's these three little holes right here. It looks like they left just enough room that I can get a zip tie in there. So I can slip a zip tie right up inside of there, and then slip one down the other way and see if I can't strap back on to that black frame temporarily until I can get one ordered. That way we get the car put back together. So I'm just going to put some zip ties right inside those little holes right there and get those zipped down a little bit. Alright, so with our little zip ties pulled up in there, let's see if we can put this assembly back together. And there we go. So now we got all of our zip ties in. So now let's see if we can fit this inside of here and tuck our little zip ties down in there. Because 3 zip ties will be better than nothing holding it until we can get a replacement. And there we go. Now we got it locked back down in place, so we can put it back in the car, and hopefully this will go for a little while until we can get us a replacement. Alright, so back over to the car we are, and we're going to see if we can fit this in there. So let's get our electrical connector back up here so we can plug it in. Right up here. And so what we want to do is just plug her back in like that, and then we got to try to feed the wire back through the hole, and at the same time line up all the bolts into their bolt holes. And I got my little zip ties to contend with as well, so we're having to work a little bit harder, but we should be able to find our bolt holes and then drop it all in there. There we go. And just make sure the electrical connector comes through. And then we just want to push it back in place. So there we go. So we got it back in there. So now all we got to do is put all of our little nuts and washers and springs all back up in there. And then we can check it and make sure everything works, and then we'll put the fuzzy cover back on. So let's get set up and put all those back on. Alright, so with all the little nuts and springs and everything back on, we'll close it down and I'll go hit the brake pedal and we'll see if it lights up. Alright, so with everything put back together other than the fuzzy cover on the inside, we'll touch the brake and make sure our light lights up. And there we go. So it's back working again and it's nice and flush. So now all we got to do is order a new one to replace this one because it's zip tied together, but at least it's flush again. It's not going to fall out. Alright, so the last stop is to replace the carpet up top, and it's not difficult, so I won't show it. All you do is just throw it up in there, and all you got to do is make sure this little guy goes back through its hole, and then you hang the hook back on it, clip them all back in there, and away you go. Well, alrighty. Well, thanks for watching.